You know what I would like for Christmas? A tripod. I wanted to make this video to encourage somebody who might be feeling discouraged this week to never back down, never give up. Because you will get what you prayed for. You will get the dreams that you are reaching towards. You will. If I can do it, me being just a regular girl, you can do it too. It just takes a little bit of faith, just a little. The word says that with even just a mustard seed of faith, we can move mountains. And when he said that, he didn't mean actual mountains. He meant, spiritual battles or circumstances. We can move the mountain. We can move those problems with just a little bit of faith. You may be feeling a little discouraged because of your current atmosphere, the current people that you hang out with, whether that be your parents, your family, your friends, siblings. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that talk about betrayal and talk about theft, blessing theft in the Bible. Like Cain and Abel, one of the brothers killed the other. The story of Isaac and Esau. He got stolen. His brother stole his blessing. And of course the story of Judas, how he betrayed his own best friend, Jesus, right? And so we see stories of people being taken over by the flesh and not doing things out of love, not doing things from the Spirit, getting caught up in mundane topics. And so you might be feeling discouraged today because of somebody around you. You might be minimizing yourself because of your mother, because of your father, because of your siblings, because of your best friend. Whatever the case might be, God called you for greatness, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. Story time. I struggled with shame for most of my life. I was always making myself smaller. I was always being quiet, not to say anything, not to stir the pot. I misused my sexuality growing up as a kid. I was, sexually traumatized for some certain circumstances. And there was so many components that buried me in shame, and that made me feel like I was a bad person, that I was put on this planet for nothing, just to occupy space, to take up room, blah blah blah. And so not that long ago, this year actually, I almost ended my life, and I mentioned it in another video. That shame and the disconnect between me and God, me and spirituality, really led me to a dark path. And anyways, that led me to the dark night of the soul. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but dark night of the soul is when you're shook up, right? And you become in a depressive state because you start to realize that you're not being authentic, that you're not stepping into your purpose. And so anyways, I was there in the dark night of the soul, and I realized a lot of things that were wrong in my life. First and foremost, my disconnect with God. And so I started getting closer by taking small steps, saying a small little prayer here and there, reading just one verse a day or whatever it might be, listening to worship music, anything that would feed me spiritually. I started going to a church, and I made some friends there that mentored me, encouraged me in my path, disciplined me, told me what I was doing wrong. And so slowly, little by little, I woke up, and I realized it was painful. It was painful waking up. It's not easy realizing that your whole life, however many years you've been living, you've wasted on people pleasing. You've wasted on minimizing yourself. You've wasted your potential. But you know, the good thing about that is that when I did get close to God, He told me that those were all lies placed on me, and that all along He was trying to reach me because He had a better plan for me, you know. And you know, here's some personal news. I got baptized on December the 3rd this year, and it's beautiful. I really feel like that was the right call for me. And you know, the funny thing about that is, going back to the shame bit, most of my life I struggled with shame, and because of it I took on this, to hide that, I took on this personality of being rebellious and arrogant and conceited. And so I dressed up as those things. I made that my identity so that people couldn't see my shame. In December last year, 2022, I went to Mexico to the beach to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with my parents, my family. And I remember we were at the beach, and I just felt the sea calling me. And so I walked up to the shore. I told my parents, I'll be right with you guys. I walked up to the shore. It was nighttime. I could see the moon. It was a full moon, actually. And I just started crying because my soul just ached so much. You know, I knew that I was in the wrong path because of my own will. And so in that moment, God told me, God whispered to me, I want you to get baptized. I want you to commit to me. I want you to give your life to me and serve me, because you know you'll like that. You'll like that better. I have better things for you if you would just let me do that in your life. And so I agreed, and I was excited. I was gonna get baptized at the beach. That was the plan. I was like, oh my gosh, how beautiful it would be to be baptized at the sea. And so I told my dad I wanted to get baptized by him, actually. And you know, scripturally, he was worried that, you know, in scripture that God wouldn't allow that you need to be a pastor for that, when in reality, in the Bible, it says, you know, we are all, as believers, authorized to baptize and make disciples of other people. That's the whole point, you know. It's to spread the good word and awaken people and bring forward, you know, heaven, aka consciousness, here on earth. And so he refused me. He refused me out of his own, you know, whatever battles he was going through, I'm not sure. And ignorance as well. And so I wasn't as developed in my spirituality back then. So I absorbed that, and I took it in as more shame. And so I basically felt like I had just asked out somebody and they rejected me, and now the whole school was making fun of me because I didn't realize that I didn't have any pants on. That's how I felt. Like, I just felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. Like, and then all the voices of all those years came back into my mind. Like, oh, who do you think you are to be stepping out? What makes you worthy of getting baptized? What makes you worthy of God's love? And so I ran away, and you know, I had a really rough year this year, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one. It's been a moody year, to say the least. And so anyways, I got into a lot of trouble, and all of the traumas from my life popped up this year. All the areas that needed fixing and healing came up to my awareness through the things that I was going through this year. And anyways, I reached almost rock bottom by considering jumping off, off the planet, logging off. But I kept going, and I think that's when I made the first video. I let you guys know about that in the first video that I made. I just felt this calling that, hey, I have something for you. Please don't give up. And so I did. I placed my faith and I obeyed. I obeyed God, even though I really don't think that I have the gift of like public speaking or anything like this. I was a really socially awkward child growing up, and even now sometimes I'll be like, but he called me to do this, and that's why I'm on here. That's why I'm sharing this with you in hopes that somebody will connect, somebody will resonate or relate to this in some way. So yeah, that was my first step of obedience, and God blessed me for that. He opened a path for me. He rescued me. He really did. He gave me purpose. And so I went with it. I made videos every Thursday, like you saw in my channel, all the videos that I have. You guys are walking with me. You really are. Every video that I post is actual. It's real. You guys are living it with me. Anyways, and then God told me, I want you to go back to Calgary. I have good plans for you. I need you to obey me and do this. Because I actually considered canceling my flight and staying in Toronto. I really did. I just kind of embraced the shame, embraced the isolation that I had in Toronto. Because I felt that I shouldn't be in communion with anybody because I'm not worthy. I shouldn't have friends. I shouldn't be close to family because I'm just going to hurt everybody. I'm just going to destroy everything. And so that's why I stayed far away from everybody. I didn't talk to anybody. I was full-blown like isolation, and not godly isolation, egotistical isolation. And anyways, I obeyed again, and I came here to Calgary. And every day he keeps doing things in my life, and God probed me again. I want you to get baptized. This time last year, I told you, I made you a promise that if you obeyed me, if you just surrendered your ego, your burdens onto me, that I would give you something better in return. But I just kept ignoring it. I'm like, no, God, like, I don't want to do that in front of everybody. Like, and still part of my shame was active within me. I was like, I don't deserve it. I'm not holy enough. I've hurt so many people, blah, 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 blah. And it's so funny the way things work. I was reading Genesis. Because there's some really good tea in Genesis. Anyways, I was reading this story about Sarah and Abraham. And Sarah and Abraham were old, as they were old and they were trying to have kids, and time passed and God never really gave them a kid until the end, where they're old and they finally obey God. And Sarah's kind of skeptical. She's like, I'm old, I can't have kids. And God's like, nothing is impossible with me. And then somewhere in there, the Lord tells them, this time next year I will come back and fulfill my promise. Something like this. I'm gonna have to go back and read it. But anyways, when I read that, I immediately felt like that word was for me. And this is how the Lord speaks to us sometimes, is things will just click and you'll resonate. I felt like God was telling me, this time last year, I told you to get baptized, that I had good things planned for you for the following year, for 2023. And I didn't obey, I didn't listen. And so that's why I suffered, Not to say that Christianity and to follow Jesus is no suffering at all. It's actually more suffering, but it's lighter suffering. It's with a purpose, and that just makes it a whole lot better than just suffering for the sake of suffering. And so, I felt that verse. This time next year, I will come and fulfill that prophecy. And so it's December again. A whole year has passed, and I am so thankful to God for all the blessings and the lessons and tribulations that He had made me go through 2023. I really, really matured a lot. I I grew my self-love. I have boundaries now. For the longest time, I didn't have boundaries. I know how to say no now. And so yeah, if I ever tell you no, just know that you're privileged, because, you know, it took me years of learning no for you to hear that no. December 2nd, which was a Saturday, I woke up, you know, really down and struggling with shame again. And I left my house because I was gonna go to the gym, but I didn't even make it to the gym. I just threw myself in the grass and I started crying so that nobody would see me. I started crying because God literally pulled me. He's like, listen, stop running away. Stop running away from the good things that I have for you. I love you. I want you to have these amazing things. Please, I just need you to commit to me. I need you to do this. Obedience. I don't need your sacrifice. I need your obedience. And the word says that as well, you know. So impulsively, I went online. Funny enough, the church was having baptism that Sunday. So I registered baptism and I got dunked. And honestly, it was one of the best things that I've done. You know, what I felt getting into that tub, because it was a little tub in front of the church. What I felt getting into that water was freedom. I felt freedom for the first time. And you know, I was crying. I was probably contributing to the water of the tub, but when I was immersed in the water, it was so beautiful, you guys. It was just indescribable, the feeling, the amount of love, the freedom, the cleansing that I experienced. And it's not to say that I'm perfect today. It's not to say that I'm, you know, Mother Teresa or anything like this. I know that I'm still, you know, that I will make mistakes, that I will screw it up sometimes. I know that. But it is just so good to know that I died and was resurrected with Jesus, and that I, no matter what I do, you know, I am saved. I'm saved. And so, you know, I just felt all my shame, years and years and years of shame, was cleansed in that tub. Because I don't feel shame anymore. And I'm not afraid to talk about the wonderful things that God, Jesus, has done for me. And so if you're watching this video and you're struggling with shame, you're struggling with, you know, self-betrayal, you're struggling with other people making you feel small, or it's not the people that are making you feel small, it's yourself. You haven't owned the identity that God has for you. And that's why you let everybody step on you. And that's why you make yourself steppable. That's the truth. And so I want to invite you to get closer to God. Reconnect with your first love, with your Creator. And if you're called to it, obey. Get baptized. You know? Receive the Holy Spirit. Walk in your purpose. And truly embrace life. Because it's so beautiful. I didn't used to think that life was beautiful for the longest time. And now even the challenges are beautiful. I laugh. I laugh when I get a challenge because, you know, I'm like, okay, we can't be sweet all the time, you know. We need a little challenge. We need, to get stronger, we need a challenge. So, yeah. I don't know. I hope that stirred something in your heart, you know. Don't let people minimize you. Don't let yourself minimize you. Because you're special. You're wonderful. And you're going to get what you ask for. The life that you desire. is one step of obedience away. So, thank you for joining me on this beautiful day. Thank you for dealing with my messy hair. And here's the view to my beautiful Calgary, my home. And yeah, we'll see you next Thursday, guys. Have a blessed week.